Live disc golf is back. And sure, it might just be the All-Stars, but damn it, let me be happy. I'm Jefferson from the Disc Golf World with another rendition of the weekend wrap-up, recapping everything disc golf from over the weekend you missed. Hopefully by the time you're watching this video, Swiss and I will be in Nashville, Tennessee, halfway to Florida for the first stop of the disc golf season. We got the minivan packed and ready to go yesterday, so stay tuned for more content from the boys. But before we get there, we have to talk about the AllStar Event and everything else that came along with it. I gotta be honest with you guys, since I won't be watching any other disc golf this month, I didn't re-up my DGN, so I didn't get to watch all of it. I did watch the highlights, tuned into the YouTube when I can, and try to stay up to date as much as I could with PDGA Live. Man, that's gonna get some getting used to. What I was more tuned into anything else was all the people complaining on social media of the live coverage. Of course, you have the complaints about blurry footage that, if we're gonna be completely honest, there will always be a group that will scream about this issue. I'm not saying 480p is acceptable, but as long as we can get some 1080 going, I don't think it's the biggest problem. Although, that's coming from the guys at the events not watching the live coverage, so I'm not the best spokesperson for that issue. Now, that might not be a long-term problem, but what could be is if the app doesn't work. I guess people can't complain about the quality issues when they can't get in. A real 1000 IQ play if you think about it. Again, I can't speak too much on this topic, however, from the mass amount of people sharing screenshots of the same issue, probably should be addressed. And it sort of did when Hunter from Foundation made a post highlighting his problems with the stream, and Jeff Spring commented back with a possible solution. Everyone just needs to give it a good old turn on and off again. Works every time. Not the best look for the coverage with the recent price increases. Doesn't help when no one knows what the start time is either. Or when you have Foundation, Brody Smith, and Robbie C all making separate posts about the problems with the app. Some of the most influential names in the sport. I mean, the app doesn't even have a feature to toggle push notifications on. Seems like a basic feature you want your subscribers to have access to. That's the only way my hungover ass would ever wake up in time for FPO coverage. It's essential for some of us. Although I'm not quite done with my own criticisms of the event, this is what the community consensus seemed to be like, or at least my timeline. Swiss told me not to think too hard about an All-Star event at the beginning of the season, but I'm having a really hard time doing that. I agree it could be a good way to generate excitement for the season, but I just didn't see that. Maybe I was too worried about leaving for tour to pay attention, but the rollout of the event seemed rather lackluster. I guess I don't really have a whole lot to suggest, but I do know I would start with posting more on YouTube than just the drafts, especially when you got 30,000 people to tune into whatever that was. If you didn't watch it, I'll sum it up for you. Brian Earhart asked some solid questions that sometimes have an alright answer. Then there was a snake draft to determine teams. Calvin Heimberg started and went with Ricky Wysocki as the first overall draft pick. Not going to say he was wrong, but that's not who I would have went with. Isaac Robinson then goes with the Discmania duo Gannon Burr and Kyle Klein, both great picks in my opinion. Heimberg then goes with the bold Eagle McMahon pick, which I'm assuming he was unaware of the fact that Eagle was going to play lefty. Didn't matter though, because he was replaced with Chris Dickerson later on to pair with Anthony Barella. Continuing the young gun train, Isaac would pick up Cole Dolan and being the good older brother, let his brother join the squad. For his last two picks, Calvin went with Matty O and James Proctor, leaving Isaac with Aaron Gossage, who just doesn't feel right being the last pick, but oh well. Those are the MPO teams, now for the FPO. Missy Gannon went with Holland Hanley for the first pick, and I'm not hating. Owen Scoggins would quickly grab teammates Haley King and Cat Murch for three simple reasons. Backhand, forehand, throws far. Missy liked that thought process and snagged Ella Hansen and two-time world champion Katrina Allen. Owen then made sure to get Hannah Blumroos and Jessica Weiss. Some may think she wanted them because they were already teammates, but they would be mistaken. She in fact wanted them because, and I quote, backhand, forehand, throws far. Oh yeah, and apparently Hannah for putting, but I'm going to take that as a slip of the tongue. Missy then adds Allie Smith and Sarah Hokum to the team, leaving Owen with Macy Valadiaz. Allegedly, Missy predicted this was how the draft was going to go, but I think everyone saw it happening this way. Now that the teams were set, it's got to be time to get the All-Star event going. Well, sort of. The skills competition is no longer a part of the scoring for the real All-Stars. Instead, it's for some money. Well, I assume so. I guess I don't really know. Starting off with the distance competition, each player gets 6 throws, split with 3 throws in each round. The longest throw in the first round goes last in the next round. In order to count, the throw must land in bounds, and this year there was a ban on rollers. Other than that, the longest throw wins. AB kicks off his set with a 700-foot bomb. They really should have just gave him the trophy then, only for him to go out and smash a 713 drive. You're lying at this point if you think someone can throw farther than AB. Some other cool losers were Max D himself, Albert Tom, who hit 649 for a solid second place, 64 feet behind AB's. No big deal. Cora Dawn with a 634, and Ezra getting the invite to launch a 622-foot drive. Over on the FPO side, Ella Hansen gets it going with a 472-foot shot, but I was too distracted by Austin Turner in the back wearing the brightest shorts, making sure everyone knows his thighs are out. Ella ends round 1 with a 497-foot smash, but that wouldn't stand for long as Eliezer Midling chucked a 491-foot bomb to take the lead. She would then go on to crush a 503-foot best throw, winning another distance competition. If nothing else happens for her, at the very least, she can be the female version of David Wiggins Jr., which would still be pretty rad. My biggest takeaway from the distance competition, other than holy shit AB, was I'm not a fan of the drone shots. Not sure if that's a popular opinion, so drop your take in the comment section below. Next up was the accuracy competition, which Alden Harris was included in. Not gonna lie, it was super hard for me to get into this event. The highlights were just okay, but watching live just wasn't for me. The rules were each player gets 3 shots through 5 different gaps, which include a big hyzer, up the gut, anhyzer, big anhyzer. The point system went as follows. Landing in C2 is 1 point, C1 is 2, bullseye is 3, and an ace is 5, from about 200 feet. The top 2 scores face off head-to-head for the finals. The only thing that kept me through was watching Dickerson pinpoint all those bullseyes after watching Gossage smack 8 trees in a row. Although this was the point the commentators made a joke about moving the discs out of the bullseye because there was no more room. It wasn't funny the first time, and it still wasn't funny the third time it was repeated. Also, are we still calling him Robot Chicken? Like, is that a thing, and why are we doing that? Alden Harris would score on every throw except for one, pushing him into the finals with Chris Dickerson. Dickerson was on fire, posting back-to-back 33s to take down the accuracy competition, proving the nickname isn't for nothing. But seriously, what does it mean? I'm only familiar with the Cartoon Network show, and that just can't be it. Jessica Weiss takes down the FPO side after being tied with Allie Smith advancing to the finals, showing off that backhand and forehand. Oh, and guess what? She throws far. It would come down to the very end, but eventually Weiss would come out on top. The last skills competition would be putting, with a special guest Andrew Marweed, another great addition. The rules would be every player gets 5 putts from 6 different stations plus a bonus station from downtown. The putts would be from 22, 28, 32, 32 again, 40, 45, and 66 feet, with all different lies that range in difficulties. Like the rest of the competitions, the top 2 scores would face off in head-to-head finals. Isaac would post a 47, which would be 1 more than Waisaki, who would be pushed out of the finals by a 49 from Marweed. Who saw that coming? James Proctor then dropping a big 55, which would put the 2 in the finals. The ending score being Proctor 42 and Marweed 54 for the win, which was the best case scenario. If I'm being real, I wasn't the biggest fan of this competition either. I like a competition with putting, but this just doesn't translate well on camera to me. Half the time, I can only see some of the basket when the player's body or trees are covering it up. Or at the very minimum, stop the back shots, which pains me to say because usually those are my favorite angle. Have we thought of a GoPro head mount yet? That was a joke. I don't need that to be the one idea they use. Overall, I don't think the skills competition comes off well on camera, which sucks because I love the concept. I don't think it's played up nearly enough. Instead of trying to make it a part of the traditional AllStar event, make it a spectacle. Right now, it reminds me more of a family summer outing competition than highlighting the talents of some of the best in the game that don't often get appreciated. Like, how often do we really get to see how good Marweed is at putting? But he just proves it on the biggest stage. For him, at least. I would set it up as events such as, can AB throw farther than 2 football fields? Now, that not only gives people a specific reason to watch that is more interesting than a typical distance competition, because those are starting to get watered down when you get 3 posted on Jomez in a couple months. It also puts a perspective of how crazy AB is throwing, by saying and showing the length of a football field for people's comparison. Oh, and just to show how insane it really is, here's a couple guys that the fans voted to see throw alongside AB, and some the DGPT felt needed to be added. Throw in some cash, and now it's an event with a purpose. What if we answer the age-old question of how many putts can someone make from 20 feet? I say we hit him with a fitness grand pacer test, and every beep there needs to be a putt until the last person standing. Have that running in the background of the distance comp, and do some check-ins while always highlighting when people get out. Or bring in Marweed and let him run putts until he misses. You're telling me no one's willing to sponsor a dollar amount per putt made? Maybe give a multiplier after a certain amount? Come on. I'd like to see a knockout-style accuracy challenge. If you make the designated landing zone, you advance to the next round, while each round the boundary gets smaller and smaller, as well as changing the lines to create a variety. And as it gets smaller and more challenging, the more people will drop. Just a thought, because throwing between trees isn't it. Finally, we get to the part that actually counts now. I'm a big fan of doubles and will argue I enjoy it more than singles on a professional level, but that's a debate for another day. The captains made the teams and they were set to play in a heads-up match against the opposing team, which were Heimberg and Proctor versus Klein and Burr, AB and Ricky versus Isaac and Ezra Robinson, Dickerson and Matty O versus Redon and Gossage, and finally, Dickerson and Matty O versus Redon and Gossage. They would play one 9-hole round of best shot doubles in the pouring rain, I should add. After Heimberg drilled an umbrella putt for 7 down, that would beat the Discmania duo pretty easily by 5 strokes. But the Super Robinson brothers would take down AB and Ricky by 4, while the other teams tied, resulting in a tie headed to singles. But first, the FPO, which the teams were Missy and Holland versus Owen and Haley versus Macy and Murch, Allen and Hokum versus Weiss and Bloomroos, also in the rain, although they would play a full 18. Ella and Allie would shoot a 10 down, beating Murch and Macy by 14 strokes. Missy and Holland would beat Owen and Haley with a 9 down, but Henna and Weiss clutched up to ruin the sweep by Team Missy. The last event was a singles match, again in a matchup style, with the winner getting a point for the team. With the rain in full effect, the rounds were not all that great, and with the hot round of the MPO being even, I think I'll just let you guys know who won this thing. If you haven't been able to figure it out by now, Team Isaac and Team Missy were the all-star winners, for whatever that means. At the very least, I hope you guys are fired up for the disc golf season getting started this weekend. Swish and I should be there on Wednesday in Florida for the Chess.com Invitational, covering every single round. So make sure if you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It's the easiest way to support the channel. Oh, and if you want to see what Drew Gibson had to say about the DGPT, check out the video right here.